If you've been scrolling through endless espresso machine lists, reading specs that sound the same, and still feel stuck wondering whether you should splurge on a professional-grade kit or settle for a cheaper starter, this review is here to clear that up. I've spent the last few weeks setting up a home espresso station, watching a handful of videos, and digging through what real users say about the major players. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What follows isn't a laundry list of numbers. It's the kind of practical, day-to-day thinking that matters when you press brew at 7 a.m. and again after dinner. First off, the Rancilio Silvia Pro X bundled with the Eureka Specialita isn't just a machine and a grinder slapped together for marketing. It's a two-part system that tries to cover the whole espresso workflow, from grinding the beans to pulling a shot and steaming milk, all without you having to buy separate components later. That convenience can be a huge value driver, but it also means you inherit the quirks of both pieces at once. Who should consider this bundle? If you're a home barista who already knows the difference between a flat-topped shot and a proper crema, and you're ready to make multiple drinks a day, the dual boiler design will feel like a relief. The Pro X runs a dedicated brew boiler and a separate steam boiler, so you can pull a shot while the steam wand is already at temperature for a latte. That eliminates the typical wait-tendre heat cycle you see on single boiler units. It also means you can experiment with temperature profiling using the PID controller without constantly guessing. For a family of coffee lovers or a small office kitchen where you might be making espresso for a few people in a row, the ability to keep both sides hot is a genuine time saver. On the other hand, if your coffee ritual is limited to a single shot on weekends, or you're living in a tiny studio where a 13-inch tall machine feels like a kitchen takeover, the Pro X may be overkill. The dual boiler adds both weight and size, and you'll need a sturdy countertop that can handle the extra heat dissipation. There's also a learning curve. The PID interface is intuitive once you get used to it, but beginners can feel overwhelmed by the temperature and pressure settings. If you're comfortable with a single boiler machine that simply does the job, you might be better off with a more compact option. Now let's talk about the grinder. The Eureka Specialita is known for its quiet operation, a big plus if you share the space with a partner who doesn't want the kitchen sounding like a coffee shop at 6 a.m. The 55mm Stepless burrs give you essentially infinite grind size control, which matters when you're dialing in a shot that sits at the edge between espresso and under-extracted. In practice, I found that moving the grind setting a few clicks could shave off a second or two from the shot time, translating to a noticeably richer crema. The touchscreen on the grinder is not just a gimmick. It lets you store multiple profiles, so you can switch from a light roast to a dark roast without manually tweaking the grind each time. That's a real convenience if you like rotating beans. However, the Specialita isn't immune to the usual grinder trade-offs. While it's quieter than many rivals, it still produces a low hum that can be heard if your kitchen is otherwise quiet. The stepless adjustment, while flexible, can be a bit too sensitive for some. A tiny nudge can shift the grind enough to make the shot too fast or too slow. If you're not diligent about cleaning the burrs, you may notice a slight flavor drift after a few weeks, especially when switching between oily beans and drier, brighter beans. The machine's silenced grind claim is accurate for most home environments, but it won't be completely silent in a studio apartment with thin walls. What about daily usability? The Pro X's dual boiler means you have to manage 2 tanks of water, but the refill process is straightforward. Just pull the front panel, top off the reservoirs, and the machine auto-recognizes the level. The PID display is backlit, making it easy to read even if you're fumbling for beans in a dim kitchen. When I ran a quick brew-steam brew cycle, the steam boiler stayed at the set temperature while the brew boiler didn't lose heat, so my second shot tasted just as fresh as the first. That consistency is something you usually only see in calf-grade equipment. Maintenance is where the hidden costs appear. The dual boiler requires regular descaling on both sides, and the steam one needs a daily purge to avoid milk residue buildup. The Specialita's burrs are removable, which is a plus, but you'll need a dedicated cleaning brush to keep the grind chamber free of fine dust. If you're not comfortable with routine maintenance, you may find the upkeep more demanding than a single boiler or a Biana cup machine that handles cleaning automatically. Price is the other big factor. Bundling.